Hello everyone, this is Glenn Irvin and this is 3 easy steps on getting started with Schoology. First we're going to go ahead and look at the gradebook and make sure that it's set up similarly to what you set up in JMC. The second thing we're going to go ahead and do is create an assignment so you can see how you go ahead and go about doing that. Finally, we're going to go ahead and post an update to one of your courses. So let's go ahead and go on over to Schoology. If you're having a problem logging in, you don't know your password or anything like that, go ahead and contact Glenn, send me an email, and I'll go ahead and get your password to you, no problem. Once you log in, you're going to be able to go to all your different classes. It should be down on this little drop-down menu up here where it says Courses. You should be able to find your classes. I have a fake class here called Folder Holder. And the first thing we're going to do is go down here to Gradebook. And within Gradebook, down below it is a thing called Grade Setup. So I'm going to click the little Grade Setup. And here you have a screen that looks kind of like what you would see in JMC as far as setting up your class grades. So just like in JMC, I can go ahead and weight my categories, or I can uncheck this to just have a total points kind of thing. So I'm going to click the weight categories because many of us have weight categories, and I'm going to go ahead and weight these classes at different weights. I'm going to make my test worth 80% and homework worth 20%. If I want to add more classes, all I do is click up here, more categories. I click up here to add, and then I type in, let's say, we're going to call it daily work. And again, we're going to name it by a percentage, and we're going to do this one at 30%. Okay? And we'll go ahead and adjust our numbers here. So let's make this 20, make test worth 50, and we should have some equal percentages there. Down here you will probably see fall quarter, quarter 1, and quarter 2, probably not the spring quarters here. And if you want, you can just shift the entire weight to quarter 1. A lot of people do that. And then after quarter 1 is over, you can determine what's the split between quarter 1 and quarter 2 if you want Schoology to figure that out. If you don't want Schoology to figure that out, you don't even want it to determine that, you're using JMC to go ahead and do that, then you would just change this to 0 and this one then to 100% during the second quarter. But I'm going to go ahead and keep it at 100 on first quarter there, just so that it's only reflective of what's currently going on in first quarter. You don't need to mess with any of these other things. If you do, go ahead and just mess around with them, but for right now we don't need any of that. We're just going to click Save Changes. So that basically is the setup of the gradebook. I want to make sure that it matches my JMC gradebook exactly. I might even have my JMC gradebook open so that I can look at the percentages and make sure that these names of categories match those of the JMC gradebook. The next thing we're going to do is basically the most important thing that you end up doing in Schoology besides setting up your gradebook is creating assignments. You give out assignments in class of all different types and you put point values on them. We will do the exact same thing in Schoology. You do it under this materials section here. You're going to click on materials and you're going to go ahead and click this little drop down arrow where it says add materials. The second choice is add assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and click add assignment. And there's many things I can go ahead and do here. If you want to make it very, very simple on yourself and you don't want kids turning in things digitally, let's say you're still going and doing paper and pencil type stuff, but you're going to go ahead and keep track of a gradebook inside Schoology, then the first thing you're going to do besides going and putting in a title, let's call it example exam, and then you can give a description of the exam in here, and then here you can give it a due date. If there was a specific date that you worked on the exam, you could also give it a specific time. Let me go ahead and do this and say that it was at 3:04 was when you did it. The category you can select it from here, because now you've created those within your gradebook, grade setup. This just says numeric scale, though you can use other kinds of scales, including creating a rubric in here. But if you're just going to go ahead and do paper and pencil assignments and you're not going to submit anything on Schoology, by submission I mean a digital submission, you can just take this off. And now the submissions are disabled and you can just keep track of grades. If you want students to submit it digitally, you have this enabled automatically on default there. Some people don't like the students to go ahead and comment on assignments. I do, just in case they have questions, then I can see those. But if you don't want the comments, you can disable those also. Once you go ahead and press create, it just goes ahead and creates the actual assignment within the class, and that's how easy it is. this assignment will now appear in your gradebook. Let's go take a look at that. And here it is, example exam. So it'll appear in both places as we go ahead and create stuff. You won't have all of these folders maybe until later. I just use the folders to go ahead and organize information. So if I have a specific unit of information, I'll put all of those items inside of that folder. Then I can tell my students, there's an assignment for you in whatever the folder's name is. And then it's easier to go ahead and take care of than a big list here of assignments. It's just an easier way to take care of and clean up the material section. So now that you've created an assignment, basically you can just now post updates. And updates are important because they not only go to your students, but if your parents are linked to their account, it will also send them an update of what's happening in your class. Like you could say, big test today. Hope you studied. And then you post that, and it'll post it to all of my students that are connected to this account. If they have a question, they can comment on it and ask you a question. Okay. And what's good about this is I like to do that at the beginning of the week. Some teachers post their lesson plan for the day or for a week. If you're absent, you can post some plans in there so the students know what they're supposed to be doing. You can tell your sub and your students what to do. It's just a good way of communicating once they're inside Schoology. Cool. So once you've done that, you're already ready to go. Go ahead and take a look at some of the other videos, how to set up folders, how to use rubrics, and some of the other things that I've created in on my Schoology list. So if you have any questions, email Glenn Irvin. That's all I got. Bye-bye.